Welcome to the first solo episode of the Frankie podcast in 2025. We are here. It's the start. It's the new year. You've all set new goals. You've all got new things you want to achieve. I get it. So have I. It's been an absolute mad year if you've been following this journey. I hate the word journey, but if you've been following this podcast for the longest time, you'll know that this last year in what we've achieved in building this podcast has been absolutely mad. So what have I got to tell you? So much. I mean, I've been sat in the UK now for the last 10 days. I've just landed back in Dubai today. And to tell you that I've been frustrated over the last week. And I just want to tell you why I've been frustrated, first and foremost, because I just listened to the first episode of the podcast that I did back in 2020, right? And it was called 2020 Vision. And what I did on that episode, if you haven't listened to it already, is laid out my vision for this podcast, what I wanted it to be, what I wanted it to do for every one of you. And one of the things I said in that podcast was I wanted to help people break patterns and flip perspectives in their life so they could have more clarity, more direction, more success, and whatever that means to them, right? And I know for a fact that this podcast has done that for so many people, but one of the things that I really wanted to establish, if I'm totally honest with myself, was to speak more myself, to step up more on the mic and put out my own content more, you know, put out my own thoughts, my own lessons and values and insights to the world. And I felt for like the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, I've been helping people articulate their stories, digging into the depths of what they've got to showcase to the world and helping them, you know, put that out in the right context and get to the truth of their own selves. And I really believe I've helped people do that. But one thing I want to focus on this year moving forward is, I still want to have the guests and I still want to help people articulate their stories. And it is very much about that. But one of the frustrations when I sat down and thought about my vision for 2025 and how I want to take my goals forward, one of the things that was really frustrating me was the fact that I wasn't stepping up to the levels of myself that I knew I had in me. And I'm not going to hide this year, you know, I'm not going to hide. I'm going to step forward. I want to speak on stages again. I want to stand in front of, you know, all of you on a Frankie Lee live at some point, maybe this year, hopefully. And, you know, help you transform your lives and transform your visions for yourself and, you know, just put my true authentic light out into the world. And that's what I want for every single one of you that listens to this content. This isn't just your generic business and mindset podcast that's done by some of the, you know, the top names in the game. You know, I'm not quoting some Alex Hormozy quote and making it sound like it's some genius thing. I'm not on the mic trying to sell you a supplement, you know, in between pumping every different health expert in the world. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm a guy that's trying to book people that are valuable, people that have got the right essence, the right mindset, and get to the real crux of the real insights that they have and distill them to you. And I also want to bring in my own insights. You know, at the end of the day, I've gone from being a carpenter and joiner in England, earning £25,000 a year, to having my own boxing gym, to moving to Australia, to being a resident of Dubai, working at world title level in boxing, having my own online business, turning over $10 million US online. It's not like I've done small things. I really think I've got a lot of value, and I want to start distilling that this year. And I want to get, you know, I'm glad I got angry over the Christmas period. I'm glad I sat there with myself and thought, you know, what is your vision? What is your goal? What do you want? How do you want to turn up for people? How are you willing to turn up for people this year? How are you willing to turn up for yourself? These are the questions I was asking myself. And I just want to give you some clarity around how I've set my goals this year in this episode. I want to give you that clarity so that you can obviously set your goals and your vision for your life in 2025 in a better way, because I was a little bit clouded, and I'll give you some stories and analogies and try and put some of my wisdom in between it all, and we'll weave it in, and we'll see where this episode goes. But I guarantee you, stick with me. It'll be valuable. I've got a lot to say. It's been bottled up for a long time. I don't know how it's going to come out and how articulate it's going to come out, but it's going to come out however it does, and it will change your life moving forward. So just dial in for this, right? So I said to you about setting goals, and I said to you about, like, you know, getting things straight in terms of what I wanted for 2025. And most people set goals and they go, right, I want to do this, and they end up with a list of like 8, 10 goals, and then they're trying to hit all these different goals, and they've got a side business going, they've got a main business going, they've got this thing going, they've got that thing going, they're trying to work in their job, and they're trying to do this thing on the side, and they're just trying to do everything. And when you're trying to hit every target, you can't hit any of them. You're just lost in a whirlwind full of shit, as I call it. And one thing I wanted to do this year was really dial it in and really focus on, what is it you want, Frankie? How are you going to get there? And what has to die? What has to die on the way to you achieving that, right? And I realized that next year I had planned to release 2 forms of digital things in the world in my businesses. One's a software as a service, another one's a software as a service too, and there were some other things that I was doing in the digital space. Anyway, the fact of the matter was I was going to do like 2-3 things in business alone. And I just sat there and I thought to myself, do you know what? I am not doing 2 or 3 things. I'm doing one thing. I'm doing content removal and the software attached to that business. And that is all I'm doing. I'm not doing anything else around that, because anything else is just taking my time and attention away from my main goal, right? And I just killed some things that I'd worked really hard on. I'd put a lot of money and time into, and I just thought, they have to go. They have to fuck off. I cannot do those things. I can't concentrate on doing all of that and get the right result. I can't do that. So that was the first thing. So I picked one for business, and then I got rid of everything else that was outside of that. One for business. Then I went, okay, right, cool. What is the one thing I want to do with the podcast, right? And I picked what I wanted to do with the podcast, and it's been my vision since day one. And I'm not going to share that goal with you because it's not important. It's my goal. I know what I'm doing with this game, but it's like one of the things within that framework of that goal was to speak more myself, because at the end of the day, it's called the Frankie Lee podcast. If you're not on the Frankie Lee podcast yourself and you're Frankie Lee, that kind of makes no sense at all. I got very frustrated last year, as I've said previously, that just me, I don't mind sitting there and allowing people to articulate the journey. I don't mind asking the questions that allow people to articulate the journey. I love that part of it, but I want to bring myself into it more, because I know how much value I've got on the other side of my mindset and everything else that I've been through that I can bring you. There is not a time when I listen to someone else's story or someone else's journey where I think to myself, holy fuck, the amount of insights and lessons and unlocks that I can give you if I start speaking myself and I step up to the fucking plate in the way that I know I should is unparalleled. So I've made a decision and I draw my line in the sand that one part of that goal for the Frankie Lee podcast is to step out more on my own and you let me know what episodes you want. You ask me questions in the DMs on Instagram, and you let me know what you want to hear more of from me, like how I can break it down for you. Maybe they're short episodes, maybe they're long, maybe I don't know what you want to hear. Just tell me what you want to hear, and if I believe I can bring value and context around it, I'll put that together for you this year. Because if I'm committed to putting out 52 guests this year, then I want to at least be committed to putting out 25 of my own episodes, because I just can't see how I could go on and hide behind being just this guy that interviews people. I can't do that anymore. I can't. Times have to change. I have to step up. I have to step out and step into the vision that I've had for this for the longest time. And that's kind of my goal around that. And then the third goal really is around my health. And it's like, I will not compromise on my health, my fitness, my mindset and everything else. And I wrap my third goal around that. So what am I saying to you? Well, I have 3 goals in 3 areas: health, business, and my podcast. Now, obviously, I've got a couple of other caveat goals around my family, which I won't share because I don't share stuff about that online, and other things that I'm doing investment wise and wealth wise and all that kind of stuff that are caveats, but they're not for this podcast. They're not going to give you any value when I talk about that. But what I'm saying to you is I have one key milestone goal for 3 areas that are the key North Star drivers. Now, when I say North Star, it's like pick the goal that drives you towards the ultimate vision of yourself and your life, So everything for me at the moment flows downstream from, yes, the podcast is important, but the podcast doesn't have sponsors, doesn't have advertising, only for my own business, which is contentremoval.com. So contentremoval.com has to become my apex predator, because that provides the money that allows me to put this content in your ears for free. Right? That is what provides me with the ability to do that. That's what provides me with the ability to live in Dubai this month, this next 2 months, and then live in Australia maybe, and then live in Miami maybe. Everything comes downstream of the apex predator. So make sure that you're aware in your life, what is your apex predator? Because most people have no idea what their apex predator is and how it is positioned. Now imagine this, right? I'm pretty fucking dialed in when it comes to knowing what my apex predator is. And even I've been guilty of this in previous years, of not putting the apex predator at the forefront of my goals. It's in the goals, but it might slip down to goal 3. You can't have more than 5, but it might slip down to like goal 4, goal 5, and you can't have your apex predator slipping down to number 4 or 5, because you just take your eyes off the ball, which costs you revenue, which costs you growth in the other areas that you're more passionate about. Now, I'm passionate about business. I'm passionate about stepping on stage and putting my voice out to the world and helping people. I'm passionate about the podcast. I'm passionate about travel. I'm passionate about all these things, all these different things, my health and everything like that. But I have to, there's 2 apex predators in my life, but obviously one of them drives money and drives the biggest results. That has to go first, followed by my health, right? So it's like, you got to have your money right, and your health right, to drive everything else in your life, right? And once you get clear on the order of your goals and which one is the apex predator, like which do you need most? I'm at probably about 80% fitness right now. So yes, health is my, I say it's always going to be my default primary objective, health over everything, because without the health I haven't got any of it. But I'm at 80% fitness as it is, so it's not like I'm 25 stone obese. That would put it as my apex predator. My apex predator has to be content removal, because if content removal isn't my apex predator, then nothing else happens downstream of that. It's like, unless this podcast goes and gets sponsors and goes and does all this other stuff, then it doesn't flow downstream. So once you've identified, or once you've gone through your goals and you got clear on what you want, make sure you identify which is the goal that provides all the others with money, which is the one that provides you with the energy to do it. Okay, that's your health. Which one's the one that is your passion project? So for me, it's like my passion project, my drive in this world, my reason for even being alive, it is communication, is the podcast, is this, that, and the other. So that's my communication thing. But I have to be healthy to be able to do it, but I have to have the money to be able to fund it all, to be able to do what I do. So content removal, health, podcast. They're all my goals, but at this moment in time, at this junction in my life, they have to be the way they're shifted. Now, don't get me wrong; these still get worked on at a hellishly executed level. I only have like the three goals. That's it, right? And there's nothing else. I've got rid of everything. So you imagine, I've gone from having the multiple goals that everyone says you should have, and this, that, and the other, and then I've just cut them all down. But here's the thing that most people get twisted. I engineer for outcomes. So I have measurable outcomes to each of the goals. Now, I might have a certain number of measurable outcomes to each goal. So for the podcast, I have measurable outcomes for chart rankings and stuff like that. And then I have other measurable goals. I won't tell you what they are, because that's between me, myself, and I. For content removal, I have actionable outcomes for, what it's scaled to per month in terms of revenue, what it's doing in the software, etc., etc., etc. I won't go into that, because again, this business stuff is not really applicable to this podcast. And then when it comes to health, I'll tell you, to keep myself below 10% body fat, or 10% and below, or get to that point and just maintain it and be in the most elite shape possible. Now, my goal kind of this year is to try and be in like, okay, can I take myself from 80% fitness all year round to like, 90% fitness all year round? Because to be 100% means you can go and, for me, and the way I think of 100% is like, can you go and do 8-9 rounds at relentless pace with a professional boxer, right? That might be the way that I look at, 100% fitness. Now, there's no way that I can do everything that I want to do in life and live at that level as well and be there all the time. I could be there in moments and chapters, but I can't be there all the time. I could probably be at like 80, 85, 90% of that and then finites in. But as soon as you understand that life in its infinite way is not like it's a marathon, but it's got loads of sprints within the marathon. And once you're clear on your goals, what it allows you to do, allows you to understand when you got to sprint in the marathon and when you got to hold it back and run in the pack, right? And run in the pack towards your goals. That's the only way I can explain it and articulate it that kind of hopefully does it some justice for you. But yeah, I just want to give you a bit more of an insight into that time in the UK. Now, obviously, I've realized that, for the last 2 years, probably since I left Australia, I've been traveling around wherever I've been, Marbella, Turkey, Miami, Los Angeles, Dubai, where else? I've lived in other places. In between. I can't even remember. But basically, I've been to all these different places, and it was leaving me feeling a little bit like, if you imagine trying to launch a rocket, and you're trying to launch a rocket off unstable ground, I've realised that this year going forward, that I have to figure out exactly where I'm going to base myself, and whether that is Dubai, whether that is Australia, wherever it is, I've just got to figure it out. And I'm not putting too much pressure on myself to do that, but I just want to give you all the advice if you're doing what I'm doing right now and you're trying to travel and build a business and do this and do that. That's why I said to you, get so dialed in on your goals and so dialed in on your direction that you're unequivocal and you know exactly where you're going. Because the worst thing is, if you're traveling around and you've got these 8 goals and you're trying to do it, so you're trying to do your nutrition while you're traveling, you're trying to hit your health goals while you're traveling, you're trying to hit your business goals while you're traveling, you're trying to do all this out of 2 suitcases, 3 suitcases. I will tell you, first and foremost, that I learned last year that it's really hard to launch a rocket off unstable ground. That's why I spend no less than a month in a place. But really, ideally, like a couple of months, because it's like I was just in Dubai for 2 months before Christmas, popped back to see my family for a week, and I'm back in Dubai for a month now. Maybe I'll even extend it there. But it's like, make sure that when you're setting your goals and when you've reverse engineered what your goals are, you get super dialed in and super clear on the fact of like, okay, where do I have to live to allow these to happen? And how long do I have to live there for? Because you can't have the goal, in my opinion, to be the world traveler, which goes to 12 different countries and grow a business. I've not seen anyone do it successfully. I really haven't. You have to be locked in. You have to know what you have to say no to. But the easiest way for you to get to the goals. So we've done the goals piece, but the easiest way to take it one step further back is like, just write down on a piece of paper your dream day in your life. Like, really be honest with what your dream day looks like, how it looks, who you're spending it with, how your apartment looks, what time you're going to the gym, what time you're doing this, what time you're doing that. Really get granular and go into this dream day and drive right into it. Because when you get to that level of depth, what happens is, exactly then, you could write down 13 goals, but the top 3 or 5 that fit in with the daily vision, the vision for your life. The ones that are the most important, just because you just sat there in detail and thought about how your day looks, what your time on this planet looks like day to day, Now, and once you get that clear, you can't unsee it, and you can't have all these extra flabby goals, is what I call them. Like, they're just there. They're just, oh yeah, I'll write that down because that looks good. And then work towards the outcomes. So when I said to you about setting the goals, you set the goals. Cool, that's the goals. What are the measurable outcomes? I said that previously. What are the measurable outcomes? Okay, cool. Now let's get the measurable outcomes dialed in. Because once you've got those measurable outcomes dialed in, you work to the measurable outcomes. You don't work to the goals. The goals take care of themselves, predicated on the measurable outcomes. Most people just set these wild goals, have £1 million in the bank's typical goal, but then they don't have a measurable outcome of that. Okay, well, that means I need to earn like 86,000 per month. Okay, cool. That's after tax profit. Cool. That means I need to be able to save that, which means I have to be able to do, say, 1.5 million a month, You need to do like 100, 200k a month because I need to pay my business expenses, etc., etc. You know, to allow me to save 86 to get me to that goal. You see what I'm saying? Unless you outcomes are measurable, you can't get to the goals that you say you want to get to, because you just don't understand the nuances of what has to happen in the middle of it. And everyone goes into the new year, flies in and says, hey, I want to achieve this, right? But nobody has the culmination of the insights available to be able to say, okay, this is the roadmap to me getting it. So just to clarify what I've said in the first part of this podcast, you've got to have 3 overarching goals in maximum of 3 areas, right? So I like business. For me, it's business, podcast, health are my 3 fundamentals. And then I have sub goals. I do have a couple more in terms of like long-term wealth, family, and other stuff like that that are funneled down off the top 3 main. But the 3 main are my apex goals, and then my apex predator of my apex goals is a downflow. So it goes content removal AI, health, podcast, or health, content removal AI, podcast, something like that. That's how I structure it. And then what I do is then I have the daily actions and the daily things that need to happen, and the milestones that need to be hit in order for me to hit that goal. And then I work towards the outcomes of that goal, right? Then what do? I already have a vision for how I want my daily life to look, and I reverse engineer my goals predicated off what I want my life to look. So that's that part. Cool. Now, what do I have? Well, I have my vision of how my ideal day looks. I have my goals. I have my outcomes for each goals. I know which order they have to fall in to make sure that each one can happen congruently. I've got my sub goals, which are like my goals around my family, my long-term wealth and things like that. I've got all that sorted out, that all dialed in. And then what do? I have a vision board. I have a vision board for the year, which incorporates what? The kind of life that I want to live, the 3 main goals I want to hit within that year, and then I reverse engineer it from that. And the outcomes of that can be in some form of the vision as well, so you can see it. And then I'll stick that as a back screen on a laptop, and there you go. That's how I reverse engineer that. But I just wanted to break that down for you. Hopefully that helps you a little bit. And I've got an even more complicated system. I won't break it down on here, but I've even gone to the point of, I break it down into the goals. I break it down into the outcomes. Then I break those outcomes into tasks. Then I have it all set up in an automated Notion board that flows through and basically tells me daily what I have to do in order to reverse engineer the goal outcome in the time frame that I've predetermined. Like I've gone to town this year because I can't afford to waste any more time to what I want to achieve and what I want to do in this world. I really can't. So I've took it to another degree. You don't have to take it to that level. I think most people, if you just put together and like I say, I'm going a bit round the houses with this because I don't do scripts on podcasts. I just don't see the point in it. I'm just riffing it. But if you go through this podcast and you listen to it in depth, maybe listen to it twice, you'll see what I'm giving you there. I'm giving you the full blueprint: goals, outcomes, vision, how you want your daily life to look. Put it all together. Vision board on the back end of it. It all ties together nicely. If you just did that or certain parts of that, you will get closer this year than you've ever got previously to how you want your life to look and the vision for your life. I want to talk about when that time I was in England, because honestly, I was sat there and I had a great time. I arrived on the 23rd. I spent Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day. You get that with my family, and it was great, and I loved it. And, I love seeing my niece and my nephew and all that stuff. I love all that. That's the only reason I go back to the UK, to see my niece, my nephew, my sister, my mum, my dad, my family, a few of my friends. That's it. I don't like the UK. Everyone knows I don't like it. It's not my energy. It's not my bag. It's not for me. I just find it a very low vibrational place. But there's that pocket, a window of time between Christmas and New Year. And to say I sat there with myself in some pain is an understatement, absolute understatement. Because what you get, I don't drink, do drugs other than a couple of mushroom journeys I've done in the past, smoke or anything like that. So I have no way at all to get away from myself. No way. And one of the there was just certain things when I reflect back on my year, I'm like, that is eating away at me. I need to step forward this year. And like I said to you at the start of this podcast, that to me, the biggest thing that was eating up at me is the fact that I'm not sitting there talking to you guys, that I'm not adding what I believe is value into the world in my own way, in my own voice. That's the biggest thing that was pissing me off for the longest time. So this is why we are probably like, 3rd of January? 3rd of January. I'm already on there doing what I said I was going to fucking do. The key thing I want you to take away and take into this year is just get an agreement with yourself on what you're going to do. Make it a certain amount of goals, a certain amount of things that you're going to achieve. Keep it super small, keep it super simple, super clean, and then action daily towards those, and don't take your eye off the ball. You know, once you know what you want to do and how you want to do it and how you want to move, once you have that plan, it's like the biggest cut through metric you have. I'll give you an example. So when I was sat there in that window of time that I was just discussing, and one of the things that was making me angry was the fact of like, hey, anger. What's anger? Anger's real useful because that drives you to another level. But why am I angry? Okay, well, I'm not speaking. That's the first reason why I'm angry. The second reason why I was angry is because I'm like, at this point, I'm like, I am focusing on too many aspects of business. There's too many things that I've got running that pull revenue in. So I had the mentorship, I had the software, I had an app I was building, and I had contentremoval.com. So I moved software and contentremoval.com into one flow, and I got rid of the mentorship, and I got rid of the app, and I got rid of all this other stuff that was hanging on, and I cut all of that shit out because that other stuff, the mentorships, the time it takes to mentor people, to take them to the next level. And yeah, we've had some great results, but I don't want to just be the guy that mentors people. I know I can add value in that space, but I want to build exitable value business that changes the trajectory of my life, my family's life. And I want to be able to say that I've done it. I want to be able to say I've exited a business. I want to be able to say that I've done millions and millions and millions of dollars in a software that I can't say that at the moment because I haven't got a software business that does that. So I got clear on the goals, and then I relentlessly cut out in between Christmas and New Year. I cut out shit that didn't need to happen. And do you know the relief on my shoulders I felt my shoulders go down, and I felt better for it because I just cut out a load of shit. I also took the pressure off myself and said, do you know what, Frankie? Over the next 12 months, you're going to figure out where it's best to have your base. Just be where you are. Stop trying to be somewhere else. When you're in Dubai, stop thinking about Australia. When you're in England, stop thinking about being in Dubai. Stop thinking about other places and other things that you're going through when you're in the environment that you're in. Just literally sit with it, enjoy the environment, enjoy the time, enjoy what you're doing, and it'll all just work itself out, So there's a few things in my life as a 36-year-old man that I do not worry about. Right? I don't worry about when the perfect woman's going to walk into my life and dating. I don't worry about all of that because as I upgrade my character, as I upgrade myself, that presents itself. Those opportunities present themselves to whoever it's meant to be, whether I'm even meant to have a woman in my life, whatever. It's all going to present itself. I don't worry about that. I don't worry about health because I take the actions daily and weekly that means that I'm going to be healthy all the time anyway because of the way that I live my life, when I go to sleep, how I move, how I eat, how I train, everything. That just takes care of that. I don't worry about making money and all that kind of stuff because I know if I do good business in the niche that I'm in and I drive actionable value in the space that I'm in, the money and all that stuff takes care of itself. I don't worry about creating individual pieces of personal brand content because if I sit to camera long enough like this and drop value on the microphone like this, it can be cut up and it can be a short form content. It can drive my short form stuff. So I don't have to sit here and think, okay, I've got to film this one little TikTok, this one little Instagram reel. So I make the bigger decisions that allow me to for the little ones of the little things that I have to do throughout my other goals to take care of themselves. Like for argument's sake, I don't worry as long as I'm doing this, right? And I'm speaking to mic, to camera, driving actionable value for you. I will get on the right stages over a period of time. I will create the opportunities to speak on stage. I will create the opportunities to sell out a Frankie Lee Live. But you can't sell out a Frankie Lee Live show without there being more of me on my own podcast. That's why it's called the Frankie Lee Podcast. So it's like, I've got equivocally clear on what has to happen at the big end of town to make the little end of town all take care of itself, and then just relentlessly execute on that, and don't worry about all the other crap in between. Don't worry about getting stressed and this, that, and the other. Essentially, the reason I'm telling you this, and the reason I just lay it out exactly how it is in my life, is because I'm trying to show you guys that over the last 5 years, I have relentlessly chased or pursued building the biggest education podcast in the world that I could build, right? I want to be the biggest education podcast in the world. It's no lie. It's been mentioned enough times on here over a period of years, and I will get there eventually. I don't know the time frame it's going to be achieved in. I don't know the exact date or when it's going to happen, maybe. But I know that in the next 5 years, we're going to be a damn sight closer than we have been the first 5 years. And I know this year, we're a damn sight closer than we were the year before. I just want to reflect as well on the things that have been achieved in this last year. It's been mad, isn't it? So we've gone all the way from let's just think about 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I was sat there on the floor of a spare bedroom in the UK when I was visiting my family, and out of frustration and anger, I record 2020 Vision. Frustration, anger. I felt the exact same way during the Christmas period as I did then. That's why I know I'm on the cusp of a breakthrough right now, because I felt as angry when I fucking just went and recorded that first episode as I did when I was in the UK this time. Felt just as angry. And that's when I knew I was in alignment, because I was like, fuck, this is going to be another breakthrough moment, because it has to be. Because anger, when I get to that level of anger within myself, that's when I know, shit, you're just about to cook something mad. Like this, you can't be fucked with when you feel like that. And I want you to understand what anger actually is. Anger is a key driver that you need within yourself. And you need to hit these certain points of anger and then channel it into something. No point channeling it in terms of going and fucking starting fights online, doing this, that, and the other, all that crap. No, channel it into your creative pursuit, which is what I'm trying to do with this podcast that I'm recording even right now. This is fueled from the anger that I experienced in that window of time. I'm like, I can't afford not to do this anymore. This is holding me back from the greatest version of myself, and I'm not willing to allow that to fucking happen. So here I am, in your face, on here, shooting content. I've only landed maybe like 8-9 hours ago. So this is what I'm doing. I'm just turning up to it. So it's like that. Just be radically honest in all areas of life, like where you're not being congruent. And I sat down with myself in the UK and did that, and it was great. It's like I just literally went and audited every area of my life that I felt any form of agitation towards. And agitation, what does agitation tell you? Agitation tells you what you should be doing. Anger tells you what you should be doing. If you resent someone else in this world, if you resent someone else, like if I resented a podcaster, what does that mean? It means that I want what they're doing. So it shows me your resentment, your anger, your anguish, your fucking antagonized attitude shows you what you want in your world, because that's why you're angry at someone else. Like when someone goes on my YouTube and they write some derogatory comment, the reason they write that comment is because they want to do what I'm doing, but don't have the balls or don't have the tenacity to do it yet. I actually want them to go and take action on it and go and build it. Like, I'll go back. We were reviewing the year, right? So, obviously, I finished the year with the Andrew Tate podcast. Now, every man, woman, and dog over the last 3 years has been asking for the Andrew Tate podcast, for me to do it. And to be honest, nobody thought I could do it or get it booked. And I knew from day one, when I started this podcast, I knew I'd have Andrew Tate on. I know I'm going to have Elon Musk on. I know I'm going to have Donald Trump on. I know this stuff. I know, because I've seen it. I've seen it in my vision. I've seen it in mushroom journeys. All the doors are opening. There's nobody in the world that I believe that I can't have on at a period of time. Not one person. So I knew this was going to happen. And everyone was asking for it to happen. And what happened? When it happened, I went to Romania, shot it in 4K, lit up his cigar room in the best did the best production of a Tate podcast has ever been. I mean, Patrick Bet David, just put it into context, went there with like 13, 15 guys. And if you look at the lighting and the visual of his podcast compared to the one that I shot, it's not even comparable. It was just me and my mate Eros that went there with 2 suitcases worth of stuff and lit it up like that. I was proud of what we achieved on that. I was proud. But what do you get in the YouTube comments? You should have asked this question. You should have gone hard on this. This is what life is. Life is polarization. Because for every comment that says, Frankie, you're shit, you're useless, you're this, you're that, the other, there was one that said, best Tate interview, best this, best that, this was great, this was great. Polarization is what you need. That shows you. Ty Lopez told me probably about a year and a half ago when I was speaking to him. He told me, Frankie, when you're getting, a lot of hate or a lot of negativity, that's what you need, because that shows you you're on the path to a breakthrough. It's not nice when you first start to get it. And that was the first real time after that podcast that I started to get a little bit of heat in the comments, a little bit of negativity. I was like, wow. This is what it's like when you get to the elite level, and it doesn't matter what your opinion is of Andrew Tate. It doesn't matter. The fact is, the man was the most Googled guy on the planet, and other than Elon Musk and Donald Trump and a couple of others, there aren't many bigger guests that I could have got on the show at this juncture of the show. So it's had a profound impact on the way I see things, because you imagine, how I told you about that time that I felt frustrated in between Boxing Day and New Year. Well, when I really started to feel that frustration was I was sat there. Imagine, picture the scene. You got Andrew Tate there, and he's in the middle of his answer to a question that I've answered him. And I'm sat there and I'm listening in my peripherals, and I'm just thinking to myself, Frankie, you wouldn't be here interviewing Andrew Tate if you weren't in the top level of communicators in the world, because you wouldn't be able to even get in the room if you weren't. You wouldn't have been able to book it. You wouldn't have been able to get to this point. You wouldn't be able to shoot it at this level. You wouldn't be sat in this fucking house. So you have to be at that level in order to do this. So that is tick, right? But you're not doing what people of this level of communication are doing. They're all putting out their own content. They're putting out their own podcasts. They're all putting out their own episodes. They're all standing on their own stages. They're all doing this. They're all doing that. And I was even listening peripherally to what he's saying and coming back with answers. But whilst in my mind, I'm thinking, you need to level up, mate. You need to be the force of nature that you can be. You need to step into your authentic light. And this is what I want all of you lot to be. I want you to all step into your authentic light. But how do you do that? Well, you do that by being radically honest with yourself. As I'm sat there on a podcast with the most Google guy on the planet, I'm being radically honest. And there's parts of that podcast, even when I look back on it, and what I'm doing now is, I remember even hearing him say it on a different show that he was on when I was doing research for this show. I remember him saying that he watches back all his podcasts and he's very self-critical on himself. And that's what I do now. I watch back my Tate podcast, and there's parts in it and things in it. I'm like, I could have done better there. I could have asked a better question there. That could have been tighter. That should have been more. I should have pushed back on this. I should have done more on this. I should have not gone in as hard on that and pivoted to that. There's so many little ways that I can become a better communicator. But you can't learn communication at the level that I want to communicate with all of you lot and the world. You can't learn it unless you first step in the arena and play the game at the level that I've played it at. So many people, to summarize, many people will criticize you when you start to get near even a glimmer of your potential. And this is what I started to see. I realized that I'd got angry about some of the feedback that I'd got from that episode, but really it was just the key that was going to unlock another door. And I needed that anger, because that anger has fueled this conversation has come from the back of me getting angry with myself that I'm not speaking to you, that I'm not delivering value in your ears myself, because I believe there is things in life that I can help you cut through, because I'm relatable. Because I have been through every level. I've gone from being the apprentice carpenter to the carpenter to in the boxing gyms to understanding, hey, I'm not good enough at boxing. I'm not good enough at fighting at that level. There's no point me trying to be a professional fighter. I'll become a boxing trainer and I'll work at world title level. So you've seen me do that, and then I worked at world title level, and then I've gone, fuck this, I've got to go and live in Australia. I'll have a boxing gym. Now I need to learn sales. Now I need to learn online business. Now I need to learn how to make revenue. Now I'll go and do $10 million million online. Now I look after some of the biggest celebrities in the world. You see me go through each and every different layer from coming from the middle class in England to what I'm doing now. And if you can't find that relatable and get something from that, I don't know what to tell you. But I just know that there's something inside me that's put on this planet to be able to cut through and make you hear. But I want to tell you why I do this podcast, right? I told you it's to help you break patterns and flip perspectives in your life so you can have more clarity, more direction and success in yours. And it is for that reason. But the reason I believe the podcast has grown the way it's grown, and the reason it's had the profound impact on some of you that it has, and I know it has because thousands of you have DM'd me with massive messages telling me about it. The reason why is because I don't record this podcast for you just to be heard. I record it to be felt. And when you connect the feeling of something and the feeling of change with the actual voice and the words of it, and you put it together so you can not only just hear it, but you feel it, that's what creates transformation in self and transformation in your life. And I don't think any other podcaster out there can do it in the way that I want to do it for you and bring it to you. So I would just ask that, and I've waffled on for 40 minutes and I don't apologize for it. Actually, I don't apologize for it because I just needed to get this off my chest. But, all I'd ask is that over this next 12 months, every opportunity, and I can't ask you every time, but I'm asking you now, if you get value, or if you've had value from me over the last 5 years, or you get value from me over the next 12 months, or you see the level that I'm trying to work at to bring you that value, just share it with some friends, put it in other people's ears, help me put this in as many people's lives as possible, because ultimately I need your help to get it to the next level, to take it to the levels I know I'm going to be playing at, so that I can play more for you. And like I said, I'm going to call this episode 2025 Vision, right? And I want to tell you my vision for this. My vision in 2025 is I want to speak on stages for you and for me. I want to speak on stages. I want to bring you the best guests that I can bring you this year, with a little bit of Frankie Lee in between, a little bit of my lessons, my insights, my words that I just want to riff off the cuff. Anything that I believe that can bring you actionable value so you can get things straight, I want to put it in your ears at the right time. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to commit to doing that. I just want to do that. That is my vision for this year. I want to grow my content removal, my software company. I want to grow that, and just do the best in business that I can. Because when I sit here and I listen to some of these people in business, I'm like, these guys, they don't have any more knowledge than me. Then don't mean that offensively. There's not many of them that come on here that I think, wow, you've blown my fucking head off with that. It's stuff that I already know, but stuff that I haven't actioned yet. And I just want to make sure that I'm actioning the business element, I'm actioning the podcast element, I'm actioning the speaking element, and I want you guys to be able to look upon me as like an inspiration towards you and towards your goals, because you're like, fuck me, this geezer lost his hair in 2012 and has just been on the relentless pursuit of becoming a bald action hero ever since. That's what I want you to think. And I know it's a bit of banter when I say that, but like, that's honestly how I feel. I want to inspire every single one of you to take action, because I want the best for you in your life. I really want you to change this. So just to clarify, what have I said on this podcast? Like, what have I actually said? I've said this. I've said, make sure you cut your goals down to maximum of 5, minimum of 3. Make sure they tick areas of life like your business, your health, your mindset, etc., etc. Then make sure you have actionable outcomes to those goals. Then make sure you have a vision for an ideal day in your life. Then make sure that your vision board encompasses every single element of what I've just said to you right there. And if you can just do that alone and look at it every day and ask yourself the question, ask yourself this: am I today working on my apex goals? Or am I working on things that take me no closer to my apex goals? Just ask yourself these simple questions, and I promise you cannot help but take yourself to the next level. And then here's the other caveat, the other piece that you need to make life successful. Don't review this at the end of next year. Review this every month as to how you're progressing. Review this every quarter as to how you're progressing. And you will take yourself to a whole different level of being. I promise you that. I want every single one of you to win. As I said, hit me up on the DMs on Instagram. Let me know what you want me to touch upon this year. Let me know what topics, where you think I can give you insights, what you'd like me to document, etc., etc. And I just want to send you to a whole different level of the game this year and put you on. Just put you on however I can put you on to get to the next level, to unlock the next door. I feel like so relieved to get this podcast done, because I felt like that's been inside of me for the longest time. As I get on through, I'm going to articulate even more value for you as I go through this mission. But guys, I appreciate every single one of you for listening. And as always, much love.